Here with you. It is the Lowdown. Just want to be a little bit longer. We're going to talk some NFL, talk about the baseball games tomorrow. Want to focus on one singular thing that I see with the NFL this week. And I always like this when we have a bunch of games similar. And we'll get to it in just a second. But first off, click the like, subscribe button. That helps us out. If you hear me pausing and swallowing, that's still because the stitches are in my throat. They get out next week. So can't wait to have those removed. But as we're going on with this, if you click the notification button, it will let you know every time one of these gets posted. So that could help you out if you're enjoying this, or if you find any added value. The other thing I want to tell people is if you text Inner Circle to the number that's over here, that will get you to the Concrete Inner Circle. It's mainly for a lot of higher rollers. If you're betting big, I put a ton of work into the NFL season and college football season. I did hit my favorite college football play of the weekend on Sunday, which was Miami. Close game, but feel fortunate. I did have Virginia Tech and got backdoored there, so wasn't too happy about that on Sunday. And I like UNC. I'm going to bet on Bill Belichick and his first ever coaching opportunity here with UNC, as both of these teams are revamped. So anyway, but getting back to the Inner Circle, I put a ton of work into this stuff. I have different algorithms I use and matchup things, looking for, like prop plays, and had a really good weekend with college prop plays as I went 4-1. And the one that I lost was Lenora Sellers over rushing in the South Carolina game. And you tend to forget it sometimes, but then it hits you because I was looking at his rushing numbers like, man, we're golden. We're halfway there through the first quarter. And then 2 sacks take you all the way down. You're like, wait a minute, he's got 9 rushes for 2 yards. And yeah, some bad sacks that happened that goes against the quarterback, which sucked. But neither here nor there. I still had a winning weekend with college props, and we'll be doing that with NFL props. So you'll see a lot of different posts if you end up being a part of the Inner Circle. So let me get away from the selling part of that, as it feels very salesy. But a lot of good stuff over there. So hopefully some of you guys will text it and find out exactly what we have going on. Now, for today, and looking back at yesterday and kind of focusing on, hopefully everybody had a wonderful Labor Day. I had a great Sunday. The only thing that really kept me from sweeping kind of the board, I talked about the South Carolina backdoor. If you were on South Carolina, you're probably extremely happy about it. It felt like we were on the right side for most of the game. It's football, it happens. And then the Mystics. The Mystics went the first 5 minutes of the game without even scoring. I think it's abysmal when you have an over and it's a Sparks game, and Sparks play faster than anyone else, so their totals are usually high. And the Mystics just had 2 crappy quarters, but that's kind of what did me in. I swept my triple play. Feel like I'm seeing baseball better now. We've got a lot of really good spots coming up, and swept the board yesterday. And there were 3 games you didn't have to sweat because I had the Giants. They were up 10-0 early. We had the over in the Nats game. That was over midway through the game. And I had the under in the Braves game, which finished 3-1. So there were ones you didn't really have to sweat, and those are the best kind of days. So what am I looking at? I'll tell you what I had on Monday. As I said, I had UNC. I had the Nats over. I went back. I liked the Cardinals under. My favorite player, the weather play, was the Cubs under, and that's Colin Ray and Spencer Strider. Wind was blowing in significantly. The weather algorithm was popping on that one, so I usually hammer those plays. So I did bet the Cubs under pretty heavy. And I've said this before, you'll see it in my write-ups, and I don't mind if you're watching this and you end up stealing a few free ones, but I love attacking pitchers in their second start off of a long time on the IL. Kyle Bradish came out, struck out 10 guys in 81 pitches in his start back, which those are a lot of purpose pitches, throwing hard. He's flat out one of the better pitchers in baseball when he's healthy, but he's got to be consistent because he got hurt after having the 3rd best ERA in the American League 2 years ago. Now, looking at a strikeout prop, he struck out 10 in 80 pitches in whatever it was, 5 innings, 6 innings that he went. I think it was 5. And then his strikeout prop is 4.5 today. And my model has him getting 4. So it's like I'm betting the under there, and I think he gets knocked around a little bit. And even if he comes out early, the Orioles traded away all of their good bullpen pieces except for one. And then Felix Bautista, their closer, got hurt, and he may never pitch again, so we shall see. But all that being said led me to the Padres, and I hammered that play. So I'll get away from what was Monday. We'll focus more on what's going on Tuesday. And again, I'm going to run through some of these NFL things. What I'll do is I'll go through all the baseball stuff, give out the free play, and then talk a little bit about the NFL and some of the things I'm seeing this week. So let's start it off. We'll go Mets and Tigers. The Mets are at the Tigers. It's 77 degrees. The wind's blowing at about 7 miles an hour. We get Nolan McLean. Not that it's anything that's going to scare you or say, hey, I got to stay away from it or I should attack him. Nothing like that. But the thing I will say is, on the flip side, it looks like the Tigers are going to a bullpen game. So I can't confirm that. Casey Mize, I was trying to backtrack and look at some of the starts. Casey Mize had a start in between an off day or before an off day, and then Morton had the start before that. And Morton is pitching on Monday. Casey Mize, it looks like, is pitching on Wednesday. They did not list a starter for Tuesday, which leads me to believe it's going to be a bullpen game, or maybe somebody's coming off the IL. But if it is a bullpen game with the Tigers, I mean, I don't even want to mess with those because the Tigers bullpen is, I mean, it's a very good bullpen, but they've dominated these games. I mean, when they went to this system and they made that run from whatever it was, last place, second to last place, to actually making the playoffs, the bullpen games were killing it for them. The teams were just struggling and trying to create the matchups that they needed. And they have a very, very good bullpen with a lot of live arms. So I'm going to got the hiccups. I'm going to tell you to take the under here in this matchup with the Tigers and Mets. That's where I would lean. All right, Seattle's at Tampa Bay. This is a bandbox of a stadium as the Rays don't have a ton of home games down the stretch. They're going to be road warriors. And this is another spot. Wind's blowing in at about 8 miles an hour. It is currently 84 degrees there. It is humid, which should help carry the ball. But we have two pitchers with sub-3 ERAs, and that would be Brian Wu. Woo! You know, everybody loves Brian Wu. And Drew Rasmussen, who is, I mean, he's just sneaky good. Like, people don't talk about him the way that they should. He's got a sub-3 ERA, and he's just been killing it. I think this is a great underplay. I mean, I would lean towards the under here. We don't have the total, the number. I'm assuming this is going to be around 8. But I still like the under. Even with the humidity and the fact that the ball carries, I think there's a lot of strikeouts between these two teams, as much as there is power in the lineup. And if the wind is blowing in consistently at around 7, 8 miles an hour, that should be a bump to the pitchers. I will lean towards the under. Let's go to the White Sox and the Twins. Twins had some of the best hitting weather all weekend long. They did take advantage of it towards the end with the Padres. I think they had, honestly, I think they went 1-1-1 in those games where they overhit in one game. One game they got shut out and it went under, and then yesterday's game, I think there was, or Sunday's game, I think there was some late inning, like the Twins or the Padres scratched out a couple runs late, and that's what helped them out in getting a push, unless you got a good number there. But we get Davis Martin and Simeon Woods Richardson with the wind blowing out to 7 miles an hour, about 7 miles an hour to center field. 73 degrees. Again, I'm going to lean towards the over here. I'm not scared of either one of these pitchers. I know you start looking at the numbers for Martin, they look a little bit better than what you'd expect, I think. But with Simeon Woods Richardson, hits a lot of bats. And with the wind blowing out, I think we see some homers here. I'm going to lean towards the over. I've talked about this. I don't like going to Coors Field, but that's where we're going for our free play. The fact of the matter is we get the Giants at the Rockies. Tons of Giants showing up in the algorithm up top, but that's usually what happens with Coors Field, or Coors Light, as we call the A's Stadium out in Sacramento. It's 80 degrees there. The wind is blowing in right around 6 miles an hour. It's Logan Webb versus Kyle Freeland. There have been a couple of lineups that I've talked about that I prefer one side or the other. I like the Giants lefty lineup. I like the Tigers lefty lineup. And when they face left-handed pitching and you start finagling, moving some pieces around, usually the Tigers take out Kerry Carpenter, which I hate. I love seeing him in the lineup, especially if I'm betting on them or the over. I do think this is an interesting underplay. I'm sure we're going to be around that 10, 10.5, 11 number, even with Logan Webb on the mound. Webb gets his ground balls. He's fine there. I'm not worried about him getting blown up. It is always a possibility. And honestly, I don't care what the weather is in Coors as much because, like, if it's a huge bump to bats, that's something. But even if it's a huge bump to pitchers, the ballpark is so big that extra base hits happen all the time. And guys get in the funk when they can't see their breaking ball breaking the way that they want, and they end up getting tattooed. So Kyle Freeland has pitched there a ton. I know he's not good, but Logan Webb is. I'm going to tell you my free play is on the under in the Giants and Rockies. All right, a couple things to get into with week one, and what am I noticing right off the bat is that we have a lot of close spreads. And I like to look at this field goal or less with home underdogs or home favorites. And this week, there are a bunch of home dogs and some small favorites to point out. So let's start with the home dogs. You've got Seattle, Atlanta, and the New York Jets all at +2.5. Seattle is hosting San Francisco. Atlanta's hosting Tampa Bay. The Jets are hosting the Steelers. And then small favorites, the Colts -1.5 against Miami and the Packers -2.5 against the Lions. Thought we might see more people getting on the Packers, especially after the Parsons trade. But I'm seeing more money coming in on these road teams. I mean, all the home teams I listed here, and I can guarantee this, I don't know which one it is going to be yet because I just started diving into this stuff. One of these games is going to be my favorite play of the week. I think there's too much value, especially in a week one, with some of these home underdogs. And we all have our minds made up of how things are going to be. Like, oh, this team's good, this team's bad. I remember this team doing this, or maybe it's in your mind how they finished down the stretch. There are two other games I would point out here. The Ravens at the Bills. I think the Ravens go in and handle the Bills. Sorry, and this isn't a homer take. This team's going to be really, really good this year if they stay healthy. Like, best team in football type good. I think they're going to have a top 5 and top 5 offense and defense, but I really think it's going to be a top 3 on both sides as they just look absolutely loaded. And some pieces that people haven't seen. I can't wait for fans to see what Mike Green looks like getting after the quarterback. Also, I mean, the additions they made on defense, all of their secondary are number 1 picks or former first-round picks. All 5 of the guys back there. So it's pretty ridiculous when you think about the talent that they have here. And, oh, by the way, you still have Lamar and Derrick Henry. So that's a half-point spread, and everybody's betting the home team there, where I kind of like the Ravens. We'll see if I end up being on that as an official play come Sunday. But I'll have some plays out early if any of you guys want to go check them out, purchase some of the premium plays. And when I look at these games and just kind of getting into what we were talking about, like the Colts a small favorite against the Dolphins. Who are the Dolphins? Like, are they good? They're totally different when Tua's there. They're totally different when Tyreek's healthy. But I don't trust this team. I mean, they traded away Jalen Ramsey for Minkah Fitzpatrick. The Steelers were upset that Minkah Fitzpatrick was kind of freelancing a little too much. I don't buy into that Miami defense. We'll have to see what they look like. Not that the Colts are great, but at home on the turf, I mean, I just feel like they have more weapons they could go to. It's an interesting spot for Indy there. And looking at the Packers against the Lions, like I could see anything happening there, but the fact that it's the Packers who are going to be one of the better teams in the NFC at home and it's under a field goal, I think I would take a peek at that. But I think where my ire comes in here and the things that I start to like before I get to these home games, like I think the Carolina Panthers are going to be sneaky good this year. And they're on the road catching 3 from, oh, God, why did I just blank on that? Is it New Orleans or, hold on. I can't believe I just did that. I literally just had a brain fart being on here. So I'm just going to go. Carolina is catching about 3 points from the Jags. That's what it was. And I don't know, maybe I think it feels like too many points, and I can't believe I'm saying this about Carolina. I think they're going to be much better than you think on both sides of the ball. Bryce Young looked really good down the stretch. That's another game that kind of intrigued me, but again, it's a small underdog on the road, and Jacksonville is the most heavily bet team this week. I'm sure a lot of people are, like when you look at survivor polls, everybody's going to go to the Eagles who are playing the Cowboys, or the one that stands out to everyone is Denver hosting Tennessee, because there are a lot of tough spots. And while I'm doing this, my rule of thumb with survivor pools is I don't take road teams until I have to, and I don't take divisional matchups. So week one is always a bitch because, you know, there's always everybody's going to get on that one game that ends up being an upset. And I think I bought into the Broncos against the Titans, but I don't feel great about it. But I'm definitely not taking the Eagles against the Cowboys, even though I think the Eagles win. Divisional games, weird things happen. So let me get back to these NFL games here because I do think it's interesting with some of the movement we've seen. Atlanta, are they going to be good enough? Do we finally see Kyle Pitts look like Kyle Pitts that everybody expected out of college? But you got Bijan there. You've got Drake London. There's tons of weapons on offense. The big question is, how's their defense going to look? And what does Michael Penix Jr. look like in this offense? Look, I'm not scared of Tampa Bay if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, especially week one. There's a huge advantage to having a home opener when nobody knows who's good and who's not. I had an old co-host that would say about baseball, and granted they're a little bit different now, but he was always like, you want to play the Royals in July and August when they know they're the effing Royals, not in April and May when they think they still might have a chance. And I think some of that applies here where I don't know who's going to be good out of this group. once all is said and done, I mean, do you think San Francisco is going to be good? They've lost quite a bit in the passing game. No more. Brandon Ayuk's still hurt. Debo's gone. Ricky Pearsall might end up being their number one. George Kittle had a huge year last year. But I think there's holes on that San Francisco team. I think the NFC West is a really intriguing division. And if I had any balls at all, I'd pick Arizona to win the damn thing. But I can't do that because Kyler Murray, I don't know what you're going to get from him year to year. But yeah, getting back to this, the Jets and the Steelers, another interesting one because I think the Jets are going to be a good team, not great. Now you get Justin Fields in a revenge game against the Steelers. You get Aaron Rodgers in a revenge game against the Jets. If you buy into those sort of things, I just think all of these are really interesting. I do think, and I'll say this much, I'll give it out as a free play here. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be on the Colts. Taking them at home against a Miami team that I think the Colts are going to run the football efficiently. And I know Daniel Jones is a guy that you don't necessarily want to trust, but he's got some weapons around him. The Colts actually have, with Downs and their tight end group that they have there and drafting Tyler Warren, who I expect a pretty decent season out. He was one of my favorite players in college. The fact that he slid to him and Colston Loveland went ahead of him with the Bears, but I think both are poised to have good seasons from a passing or from a receiving standpoint. And then you look at Michael Pittman and Downs, and now I'm blanking on the kid that they took out of Texas. But like there's talent there where I think they can get it done on offense. And Jonathan Taylor coming back. The big question with the Colts is what their defense looks like, but I think it's got to look better than what Miami looked like last year. So anyway, just rambling through some of these. I'll give out some picks. I'll break down some games going through it. If you guys have questions, leave them in the comments. As I say all the time, I'll come back tomorrow and post what the weather algorithm states. If you guys checked in on Monday, as I posted in the morning, there were 3 or 4 outrageously good spots that were all fine to bet. Like when I say it's a great spot, I got no problem with anybody betting it. So I listed a few of those in yesterday's podcast. But with that being said, definitely check out Pickdawgz.com. Lots of great stuff going over there. I got my premium picks up if you guys want to purchase those. Put a lot of time and effort into breaking these things down. And I'm really looking forward to football season. We'll have some prop plays, different things going on with the inner circle and breaking down some. I'll actually have my plays graded in the inner circle so you can see what my favorite plays are for the week. But I think we're in for a really good week. Had a okay college football weekend. Saturday wasn't as kind to me as I would have liked. I did pick a few. I had some games that I was on that one that I didn't place a wager on, which pissed me off, like the Texas-Ohio State under. I just ended up sitting back and watching it. I didn't even click the button to bet it. So, but that being said, we'll step out of here. We'll continue to do this like this. More football, more college football throughout the week. But I'm still staying with baseball. We'll be mixing that in as well. So hope you enjoyed this, guys. Hope you win some cash today. Good luck, and I'll see you tomorrow.